The nWo. Both of these movies are released from WWE, and they follow the events that happened in WCW during the mid 1990s, early part to basically the formation of the nWo, which was mid 1990s. Um, and then through some of their events in the 2002 when WWE had bought WCW, and they tried to incorporate the nWo into the storyline. Um, Miserably. So basically, in case you don't know, I'll give you kind of a recap of the events that happened. Um, if you were a wrestling fan in the 1980s, Hulk Hogan was the face and forefront of WWF. Biggest babyface, biggest moneymaker. If you were a little kid in the 80s, you pretty much liked Hulk Hogan. At least all my friends did. Um, I still remember as a little kid, I'd be running into that living room when I'd hear Hulk Hogan's music come out, and I'd rip my T-shirt off, and then my mom would spank me for ripping my T-shirts. But the excitement that he brought to that, it was so cool. Um, I was just happy because I was like, wow, that guy's really muscular, and he's got blonde hair, and I've got blonde hair, and I can be just like him. Well, several pizzas and two man tits later, here I am, and I'm certainly not Hulk Hogan. But the guy brought a lot of charisma to wrestling. He made it enjoyable. He made you want to believe in the baby face, which is what wrestling people call the good guys. Heels is what they call the bad guy. But basically, in the 1980s, he helped the WWF get to a higher platform and face recognition. Basically, it was just wrestling was, Hulkamania. Um, then he left. Um Early 90s, he had left, and he was doing a TV show called Thunder in Paradise, which I watched because at the time I lived on my grandma's ranch, and I was just excited because I was like, dude, Hulk Hogan, he's on TV. This is epic. This is really really cool. And it wasn't a bad show, but it was definitely a um, it definitely had a formula to the show. It wasn't the greatest show, and you could tell it was always pretty much going to happen. But as being a 10, 11 year old, I didn't really care. Um, but he dropped out of the wrestling scene for a while. Um, Go back to WWF, and you had new people like the Heartbreak Kid, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Razor Ramon, and Diesel. He also had Undertaker, Bret Hart. At that point, like I wasn't a wrestling fan back then. When I moved to my grandma's ranch, basically that was when I kind of got out of wrestling, kind of got out of Star Trek. There really wasn't a lot for me to watch because we had like two channels, which was NBC and then like Science Channel. Not even Discovery. It was just Science Channel. So if that tells you, like I read a lot of books growing up. Um, but I really didn't know much of what was going on in the wrestling world. Kind of forgot about Hulk Hogan. Didn't think anything of it. Um, Fast forward to about 1998, 99. Um, my brother-in-law, who I worked with at Dairy Queen, he wasn't my brother-in-law then. He was just one of the cooks that I had worked with. Um, he was like, "Hey man, I love wrestling. You ever watch wrestling?" And reminiscing about Hulk Hogan and whatnot. I got kind of excited, and he was like, "Yeah, my favorite wrestler is Sting," and I knew who Sting was. I was thinking, the bright, flashy colors, the flat top, the bleach blonde flat top, the woo, just really excited, um, and loud, very loud character, which just like Hulk Hogan was, very loud character. So both of those were, my favorites growing up. Well, he brought up Sting. I instantly knew who he was talking about. I was like, dude, yeah, let's watch it. Like, I love, I'm not into it now, but let's watch it. Let's see what we got. So he brought over a VHS tape. That shows my age when you got to say VHS tape. Um, but he brought one over, and automatically I was sitting there. I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy in the white face paint? What is this?" Who's the guy with the long hair? What is this? I didn't really understand. Like I hadn't put it in my head that times have changed. Sting is not that same Sting that he used to be. And then the ultimate bomb hit me. Hulk Hogan was now Hollywood Hogan. He had turned into a bad guy. And I was just like, wait, he's bad? Wait, what? What? Hulk can't be bad. It's Hulk Hogan. Like, what? So I watched the whole, Sting Unmasked. Um, and I had to understand, like, why is he wearing black? Like, what is that? Why is he doing that? Because as a little kid, like Hulk Hogan's colors were always red and yellow. And for me, like I always wore red and blue. Like I always did that. That was kind of my thing. So 9 times out of 10, like if you see an old picture of me, I'm wearing those two colors because in my head I was like, Hulk Hogan does it, I can do it too. Except I'll do my own colors. Because those were my two favorite colors. Um, but when I saw Hulk Hogan in black and he had like a spray painted beard and whatnot, and I was just like, this is really, really different. So I went out and I bought as many nWo and WCW stuff as I could. I started tuning in to WCW on TV, which, if any of you are wrestling fans, you know that WCW wasn't good at that point in time. It was pretty shameful and it was pretty hard to watch. So I couldn't like my enthusiasm for modern WCW was slowly declining. Um, but I went back, I retro watched a lot of stuff, and at the time they didn't have YouTube, but they did have like BearShare. So I would type in like nWo and WCW Sting and Hollywood Hogan so I would sit and I would download videos, which I had dial up, so it would take like 2 days to download a 15-second clip. Um, but I would sit there and get as much information about this group and get as much knowledge as I possibly could because the idea that Hulk Hogan turned bad just fascinated me. And so I watched, and I had no idea who Scott Hall or Kevin Nash are, which are these guys right here. Um, and that's basically the formation or the original three members to the nWo. And what had happened was uh, Hulk Hogan went to WCW and worked there for a couple of years to where at first it gave him a huge ratings boost and everyone was happy because they saw the numbers. And for WCW, a lot of that was the bottom line really went a long way. It didn't really matter what they put out. It didn't matter if it was quality. It didn't matter what was going on. It was just the bottom line. Don't ruin that bottom line. Um, but when the numbers started declining, they decided to put Hulk Hogan. And see, at this point, like they kind of like people kind of tell the story a little differently. Like I've read Eric Bischoff's book, I've read Hulk Hogan's book. Their biographies or autobiographies. Like I've read their book, and because I find that stuff interesting. And in fact, in my middle ages, I found that the behind the scenes stuff is more interesting than what actually goes in front of the camera. But Hulk Hogan will say that, uh, it was his idea, and he was like, well, maybe we should go bad. And then Bischoff will say that it was more they didn't really know what to do, and he asked Hulk, and Hulk said no, and then at the last minute Hulk said yeah, and so it's like either way, however it happened, like they decided to put Hulk Hogan in the bad guy shoes just because his character was stale, and on TV like you're only as popular as the heat that you draw or the crowd, the pops, which is what they call the crowd when they chant or they applaud. So they decided to turn him heel, but they needed to do it properly. Well, WCW at the time, Eric Bischoff had went to Ted Turner, and Ted had asked him, what can we do to compete with the WWF? And Eric was like, I need prime time. So he gave it to him, and that allowed him to get more talent. Like Lex Luger was the first jump from WWF to WCW, and some other names. They weren't quite as big, but were nice coups to get, kind of kick Vince McMahon in the crotch per se. But the Scott Hall showed up about a year or so later, I believe, and people actually thought it was a real life invasion. That Vince was actually sending people over there to invade the WCW. And then the next week, Kevin Nash shows up. So both of them started feuding with wrestlers. Sting, Luger, Macho Man were kind of the three they were kind of getting to. And they said that they set up the whole thing for Bash the Beach. The surprised the fans that Hulk Hogan would come out and turn on WCW. To hear, I would have loved to have been there live to have seen that. To see it in hindsight, like it gave me goosebumps. In fact, I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about that moment. Not because of the actual moment that happened, but because of everything that was behind that. Because to the fan, like if I had been watching it, I would have been, Hulk Hogan's going to save the day. He's going to go save the day, and to see that, like nowadays people turn heel, babyface, heel, babyface, heel, baby, and it doesn't really mean anything. It's like characters dying in comics. Like it's kind of like a flavor of the month. Like no one cares anymore. But for that, like to take the biggest babyface that the wrestling industry had, and I apologize for my coughing. I'm still suffering from a sore throat, and it's really getting to me. So I apologize. But for anyone that was watching it back then, like that was unheard of, and it was definitely the injection that franchise needed to get back off the ground, to kind of pick up steam and to go, because I think it was for well over a year they beat them, they beat the WWF in the ratings, because it was this whole NWO storyline. And the NWO and Sting, who now looked a lot like the Crow character with the white face paint and the long black hair and the trench coat and the bat that he would stand there and point at you, or point at Hulk Hogan. Like there was a lot, to sit there, every week and to see that and to wonder, is he going to get Hogan this week, or is he going to join the NWO, or like it was a lot of there was a lot of psychology in wrestling back then. It wasn't just a flavor of the month type thing. And so to be part of wrestling back then, like I'd give almost anything just to be, to sit there and speculate and wonder, because they were still bringing in people from WWF, to kind of just shock value. At that point, it really went into kind of a Jerry Springer type mode where it was like, get anything that you can to get these people to talk, and talk about our product, good or bad, doesn't matter. Just get them to talk. Because if they're talking, then they're tuning in. If they love you, they're tuning in. If they hate you, they're tuning in. And that mentality really is the right mentality to have, which is one of the reasons why I don't really watch wrestling now, because the reality of it's gone, which is kind of dumb to say for a sport that is predetermined. But the reality TV-ness of the program is gone, where now it's more like children's cartoon type vibe, and or at least that's what I get from it. I don't really care for it. But to watch these three people and then to slowly overtake, they would grow new members, or not grow new members, it sounds like clone shit. But they would get, they would adopt new members into the NWO, and they would, it's like at that point it was like that's where people started kind of turning from heel to face and face to heel, and it's like you didn't really know who was on whose side, and all of a sudden, oh, I got my tag teams, my partners, we are gonna get you, we're gonna get you, and then at the end of the match, like right as they're about to win, like he turns on his partner and hits him with a chair and takes off his shirt, and there's an NWO shirt underneath, and it's just one of those things where it's like to be a fan watching that, it had to be pretty exciting, because you'd be like, man, who's gonna be in this group? Like these guys are some cool people, and honestly, like it did a lot for a lot of people's career. Like You take any one of those average wrestlers, put an NWO shirt on them, and like Hogan said, it turned you pretty much into a star overnight. So they had a lot of good things going on. Um, but with these videos, um, they talk a lot about the origin of the group, a lot of the pre stuff. Um, and I originally had this, which was the very first one that was released by the WWF, and it actually had Scott Hall on it, which I was really happy because, as I watched some of his stuff, like I got to be a big Scott Hall fan. And I think when he's, off the alcohol, I think the guy's got a lot of potential. Like the guy is just a hell of a performer. Not even talking about wrestling, I'm just talking about, the state of mind this guy's in. Like he's just a wonderful performer. The guy is smart, and that's the guy you always want around in the business, even if he's not in the ring. Um, but he was on this one, and that was one of the reasons why I picked it up. That, and again, I'm a big Hulk Hogan fan. But there really wasn't much of anything there that I didn't already know. And plus, the NWO had just been brought back into the WWF because Vince McMahon, about a year before, had bought in WCW. WCW went out of business, and so Vince bought it dirt cheap. Eventually brought the NWO in, so they were kind of releasing this DVD with the, kind of coinciding with that, the NWO being around. Um, and so, like, honestly, watching it, like, it was cool, but it was disappointing to me because it didn't offer any new insights. It was just more of like a very basic, very formula type DVD of this is the history of it, this is, where we're at, and that's that. And so I left watching it going, and one of the last things that Scott Hall had said on the DVD was, stay tuned. You don't know where we're going. The sky's the limit, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. But to know that by the time I watched that DVD, like they'd already stopped the NWO storyline. So, damn, I apologize, everyone. Um, but to sit there and watch, Scott Hall and Hogan talk about the NWO and talk about how, the sky's the limit and, it's going to be just a great thing coming. And to know that the storyline had already been over. And the way they did it, it was just shameful. Like Vince McMahon walked out to the NWO music and, said that's the last time you're ever going to see that logo or, that music, hear that music. And I get the fact that it wasn't Vince's creation to begin with, but he kind of shit on the product. Didn't really take it seriously like he should have. Like the NWO could have been a really good storyline for WWF, and I'll make a video on that, at least on my opinion and what I would do differently, because I certainly wouldn't have done what he did with it. Especially with the amount of characters that they had. Like they really could have done what WCW did, which, slowly do it. And again, get behind the psychology of it. Like, have your wrestlers like start joining the NWO and have them take over. They turned Hogan babyface at WrestleMania 18, and I don't think they should have done that. Hogan would say, that you kind of got to, when the crowd's for you, you got to go for it. And I don't think that was really the right time to turn him babyface, especially when you have this whole NWO invasion thing that you're trying to get through. And, it watered the effect down because it's like you're not an invasion force now. If the crowd's behind you, then obviously they're going to think you're a hot commodity. So why not keep Hogan with that and continue running with the NWO storyline? It's when the NWO storyline, failed, now turn Hogan babyface, but, that's just my opinion. None of it's my money. And again, a lot of it's hindsight. But to watch that DVD, like, it's kind of hard to sit there and watch it because it's pretty basic and it tries to end on a hopeful note and it fails. So when I saw this bad boy on Netflix, and I picked it up from Walmart because it was in a 2-pack with a DX video, which I'm a big DX fan too. So I figured, why not? They're both $10. That's pretty damn cheap. You know, 2 DVDs for $10. Even though I've seen it, maybe the extras will be good. Because I'll buy a DVD or a Blu-ray if it's got extras on it. Like I'm pretty big on that. Because I like, again, like I said, the behind the scenes stuff. What goes on behind the scenes is a lot more interesting to me than what is actually put out a lot of the time. So at least also get inside their heads. You kind of get, what are the producers thinking? What are the people thinking? They're putting their heart and soul into this product. And you can also kind of tell, okay, are they full of shit on the product? Do they really know what they're talking about? But I really wasn't too impressed with the second DVD either, because um, I'm not a fan of splicing videos. Like, if you're going to make a video, just make it a complete new video. But they took in, even though Scott Hall wasn't part of the WWE anymore, like they spliced him in, his scenes from the first DVD, they spliced it into the second. They did the same thing with Hogan. And then they did the same thing with Eric Bischoff from the Monday Night Wars DVD. So I felt cheated because I've already got those DVDs. So why are you re-releasing something I've already got? Like, I got no problem buying something twice if it's got something that's great. And it's got some decent special features, I guess. But again, like, I was kind of wanting more for the Wolf Pack, wanting to see more about that because I didn't know anything about that. Now, the Wolf Pack is, in '98, the nWo split off into two factions. And one of them was the nWo, the black and white, and the other one was the nWo black and red, which the nWo logo was red. And they were called the Wolf Pack. And to me, that was pretty interesting because when I saw Sting was black and white, which would automatically suggest to you nWo. Well, he wasn't. And to me, I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Like, he's kind of goth, kind of, it suggests nWo, but he's not. Like, it's kind of like the bad guy, but he's a good guy. But when I saw him in black and red, like, I was kind of taken aback by that. I'm like, whoa, did Sting turn bad? Like, dude, he's nWo. So I didn't know anything much about that group, and I've read stuff online, and I get that, but just to see that stuff in a video where it's like you're re-releasing everything onto this, and you're not offering us hardly anything on the Wolf Pack. Like, to me, I just thought that was a real big disservice to, that storyline, which at the time, I mean, I think they were around for like a year. That's pretty big in wrestling story terms, especially given the fact that, after the Wolf Pack went down, then you had the nWo, the red, white, and black. Like, it's kind of weird. Let me see, get up there. There we go. But it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, I want to know about those storylines. Like, I wasn't there to watch it. So, and I'm sure that there's, fans out there of, a lot of what WCW did. Okay. I'm sure there are fans out there of some of the storylines that WCW did accurately. So I don't understand why they didn't, they just regurgitated a lot of the stuff. So I can't really recommend the second DVD. I mean, yeah, it's got matches and stuff, which is good. But again, like, the regurgitated stuff really bothers me. I'd say both the DVDs together are worth getting if you're a hardcore fan like I am. But disappointing is got to be. Like, I hope they release one more DVD that has, the entire storyline, that happened with all of that stuff. Because, like I said, I don't know hardly anything about what happened with the Wolf Pack. I haven't seen most of the stuff on there because a lot of the stuff on YouTube doesn't get posted. And with all the archives that Vince has from WCW, I don't understand why you can't post those. I certainly would find that a lot more interesting than like a John Cena video, because I'm not a fan of his. He's a talented guy, I'm sure. I'm not going to get back into wrestling, but I would certainly invest my money into some of the older stuff. If they could give that to us. Like, there was a Four Horsemen DVD that they put out, which spanned the entire thing. And I loved that so much. And I'll do a video on that as well. But I think WWF, well, WWE, I think they really dropped the ball on what they could have done with nWo DVDs. Um, they're not bad, but don't go into it thinking that that's just gonna clarify everything for you. Um, it's good stuff, but not exciting. Um, and like I said, I don't know. Like I left it really disappointed. Um, I don't know. I guess that's pretty much all I got to say on it. This is more for you wrestling fans. I had a lot to say on the subject because, like I said, this was one of the things that got me back into wrestling for a while. And like I said, I'll do another video at another time talking about what I would have done differently with the NWO being brought back into the WWF and how I would have changed some of the things there because I thought it had a lot of potential, especially with the superstars they had. Because I was pretty heavy into wrestling in the 2000 2001 era. Um, but I, I don't know. Hit me up. Let me know what you guys think. And if you guys have seen any one of these DVDs, let me know. If you like them or if you disagree with me, again, comment. Let me know. But anyway, keep on geeking on, guys.